Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, no suspect yet in the Boston Marathon bombings, but investigators may have an image of the person responsible.
I'm Peggy Pico. Also ahead, a local gun dealer explains the evolution of San Diego's gun culture. And Chicano Park celebrates its 43rd year this weekend, how the neighborhood has changed and the festivities that are planned.
And do you have the muscle to take on some arm wrestling champs? KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. A city leader in Boston tonight says investigators have a picture of a suspect in Monday's bombing at the Boston Marathon. He says it comes from a department store video and shows a person dropping a bag near the scene of the second explosion. Earlier today, there were reports of an arrest, but the FBI says those reports were incorrect. Boston City Council President says there has been a confirmed description of someone leaving the scene.
It's very active and very fluid right now, that they're on the chase of, they may be on the verge of arresting someone, and that's good because the longer time that goes by, the less likely there is an arrest.
As the search continues, a Northern California company says one of its batteries may have been used in a pressure cooker bombs. Tenergy Corporation says they believe they spotted one of their products in photos posted online. Federal authorities are scouring thousands of eyewitness videos as well as photos. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy talked to a Homeland Security expert who says smartphones are changing how crimes are investigated.
Thousands of spectators with iPhones in hand lined the finish line of the Boston Marathon. Federal officials are now pleading with witnesses to send in what they captured.
You're at something like a finish line of the race. People aren't just standing there watching. They are standing there now with a phone of, I'm waiting for my person to come across, and it's click, 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 click.
Eric Frost is co-director of SDSU's Homeland Security Graduate Program and director of the Viz Center. He says the newest and best forensic evidence is social media forensic evidence. Every picture, video, and social media entry has a timestamp and location. He says the data is invaluable.
Say if I pulled my phone out and took a picture of you, I'm also taking a picture of all the people behind you and associated with you. And so somebody on the opposite side taking a picture of a racer coming across, somebody on the opposite side for where the bomb was, whoever put the thing there had to have their picture taken.
Frost says the massive data set of images is compiled together to create a detailed three-dimensional visualization to capture the scene second by second. He says officials have been able to pinpoint, for example, a person holding a backpack and another image minutes later of a person without the backpack. Frost says his team is helping officials with the data but can't give specifics of their involvement.
And the way you often help is, in a simple way that the Viz Center does things, is how do you connect people that, somebody needs this, and here's a person that does that. And those things are really wiser to have quiet. So that's most of what we do here at the Viz Center, is we are quiet people in the background actually helping, and we can be the most fruitful by helping without being the limelight.
The Viz Center has used the technology to create imagery for several recent disasters, including the Colorado wildfires, Japan earthquake and tsunami, Haiti earthquake, and the Gulf oil spill. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
And we're just getting word tonight the FBI has arrested a man accused of sending poison-laced letters to President Obama and a Republican senator. The letters tested positive for ricin. Neither reached its destination. Both stopped at mail processing facilities, which were then searched. The FBI says it arrested a suspect in Mississippi today. Disappointed but not defeated, the words of a Sandy Hook parent today after the Senate turned down a bipartisan plan to expand background checks for gun buyers. A majority of senators actually voted for it, but the vote fell short of the count needed to advance the measure. It would have required background checks at gun shows and for internet sales. Opponents said gun owners would need federal permission to transfer weapons to each other. Now, shortly after the vote, President Obama said the opponents lied. He called this a shameful day for Washington.
They claimed that it would create some sort of big brother gun registry, even though the bill did the opposite. This legislation, in fact, outlawed any registry. Plain and simple, right there in the text. But that didn't matter. And unfortunately, this pattern of spreading untruths about this legislation served a purpose, because those lies upset an intense minority of gun owners, and that in turn intimidated a lot of senators.
The Senate also killed another proposal to limit ammunition. A former gun dealer tells Peggy Pico where he stands on the issue and how the gun culture has changed in San Diego.
For John Rippo, selling guns started as a family business. He began working for his dad at their family Oceanside gun shop when he was just 13 years old and sold guns there for 17 years. He joins us now with a first-hand observation on San Diego's changing gun culture. John, thanks for talking with us today.
My pleasure.
How have you seen the gun culture, or have you seen it change over the years here in San Diego?
Yes, I have. My involvement with it goes back almost as long as I've been around, well over 40 years. And I've seen that culture change from a genteel middle class and very pleasant culture into something much more oriented toward military, weaponry, and the kind of fetishized things that go with them.
Give us some examples. That genteel, were they collectors? Were they women, men? Who was this more genteel population?
My dad had a very significant collection. His crowd used to were professionals. They were hunters. They were people who were interested in them the same way that some people are interested in art and other collectibles. The closest other group would be antique car collectors. That has morphed. Those guys are gone. They're not around the way they were.
What do you think changed that?
I would argue that the entertainment media had a huge impact on that. Particularly, people like Arnold Schwarzenegger and his Terminator films really deserve a circle in hell all his own for that change, because that kind of influence begat a new culture focused on the power of weaponry that we hadn't seen before.
And that was a change as far as the American culture goes. It seems like guns were more integrated in the past in our lives.
That's correct, yes, that's correct. And I would argue that people who did not grow up with them as part of their day-to-day culture substituted an ideal seen in the entertainment media for the reality that came before.
Something interesting is I believe that farm workers and field workers used to have guns. Women carried a lot of guns for protection. Has that changed?
In the days when it was still legal to do so, we had a booming business in selling migrants single-barreled 12-gauge shotguns that they used to hunt with for doves, quail, anything else in the fields in which they live. No one thought anything about that, and to my knowledge in all those years, we never had a single crime reported with any of the firearms we sold to that class of people. As far as women are concerned, I taught hundreds, if not thousands of women how to shoot for keeps in order to safeguard their lives, usually following domestic violence issues, restraining orders, that kinds of thing.
Let's talk about gun shows. Del Mar's gun show especially, it's big now. You've been there lots of times. How is the atmosphere there, or has it changed at local gun shows?
Completely different, completely different. My dad's contemporaries are all gone now, and they were collectors of antiques and valuable things, and there are none of them left, sadly enough. That has been replaced by vast discount sellers of ammunition, military-style weaponry, and all the different kinds of things that go with that. It just couldn't be more different. The last show that I was at had numbers of people that I had never seen before, people carrying dollies and wheeling out boxes, cases full of cartridges. I even saw women with baby carriages and babies in them hauling away cases of 7.62 by 39 rounds. Never saw that.
Do you think, speaking of the ammunition and laws now, about that, do you think some regulation of ammunition would help?
Not really. Ammunition is made of components which are purchasable on their own, which are virtually impossible to regulate as components, and they can be assembled. The same thing with gunpowder. Gunpowder is relatively, in some cases, quite simple to make.
But you have a unique perspective on, if not the regulating of ammunition, what is your perspective on managing gun laws as far as registration and things like that?
I would first like to see a uniform code of registration. In other words, everybody have the same kind of background check in all 50 states. I'd like to see a little more sanity in the education about firearms in the culture. I would like to see a better level of training in their use, such that the imagery that we have from the movies gets overcome with a dose of reality with what they are and what they are not.
All righty. Well, John Ripa, we are out of time. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.
A bipartisan group of senators released their proposed immigration reform bill in the wee hours this morning at about 2 a.m. Not long after that, the interest groups with a stake in the bill were already responding. Fronteras reporter Adrian Florido joins us from the News Center with some of what they're saying. Immigrant rights activists held a news conference in San Diego today. What did they have to say about this bill, Adrian?
Well, they represented immigrant groups, border communities, and labor unions. And in general, they said the bill is a good first step, but one that still needs work. San Diego union leader Lorena Gonzalez praised the path to citizenship outlined in the bill because she says it'll make it easier for immigrants to come out of the shadows and unionize. But she also said the government needs to stop deportations while the bill gets debated in Congress. Another activist said he was pleased to see the bill address the excessive use of force and racial profiling by border agents, but he also criticized it for its emphasis on even more border enforcement and security. That's something that immigrant advocates are going to be lobbying against in the months ahead.
And business groups also have a stake in this immigration reform bill. What did they have to say?
Right. Farmers, builders, and manufacturers, they all held a conference call this afternoon to give their take. They said they were happy to see the bill address their needs for more immigrant labor. The vice president for the Associated Builders and Contractors, for example, said that a new visa program to bring in temporary foreign construction workers would help the industry, but he said it wasn't big enough. And so that's something he's going to be lobbying for in the months ahead, a larger program. Some groups are definitely opposed to the bill, but an overwhelming response from different groups has been positive, with folks basically saying that there are things that still need to be hashed out, but for now they're pretty happy with what they're seeing.
Fronteras reporter Adrian Florido. The county health agency is advising folks how to protect themselves from West Nile virus. It became epidemic across the country last year and hit California hard, but San Diego was left practically unscathed by the mosquito-borne illness.
West Nile virus came from East Africa and first appeared in this country on the East Coast in 1999. Birds are often the first to become infected. It's transmitted when a mosquito bites an infected bird, then passes it on to a person. 2012 was the worst on record for the spread of the virus.
In California, 451 people were diagnosed and 16 died.
San Diego County had only one case last year, but the health department says we shouldn't get complacent, especially during the hot summer months of June, July, and August when mosquitoes are most active.
These squiggly things are baby mosquitoes, and if not treated properly, can turn into these guys. And they're attracted by the carbon dioxide in our breath. It's actually the female that delivers the deadly bite.
To stay indoors when the mosquitoes are active at dawn and dusk. And if you have to be out, wear long sleeves and long pants.
Use insect repellent for the best protection outdoors, and empty stagnant water from unused pots, toys, and tires to discourage mosquito breeding.
One of the best ways is do whatever you can to stop the breeding in your own backyards, because it's not only affecting you, it's also affecting your neighbors, because mosquitoes have wings and they can fly for, in some cases up to more than a mile or two. So, the problem may be emanating from, several blocks away in some cases.
San Diego may have been spared last year, but even places that historically haven't had problems are being caught off guard.
Texas had one of the highest numbers of cases in the United States last year, and they unfortunately weren't quite prepared for it when it occurred because they'd had low numbers for quite some time. So we don't want that complacency to fall here as well.
Now, the county's mantra for the public is protect yourself and family, prevent the spread by clearing around property, and report any dead birds you may find. Another month of rising home prices for Southern California, reaching their highest point in nearly 5 years. The median price in San Diego County jumped nearly 19% compared to March 2012. Sales went up too by about 16%. MDA Data Quick says demand for homes is rising while supply is low, so prices have nowhere to go but up. The owners of Fresh and Easy supermarkets are calling it quits. British retailer Tesco is putting Fresh and Easy up for sale at a loss. There are 200 Fresh and Easy stores across the Southwest, including 17 in San Diego County. Most launched before the housing bubble burst, but never managed to make much of a profit. Tesco is hoping to sell all the stores to one buyer to save jobs. The company has 5,000 employees. San Diego's Chicano Park in Barrio Logan celebrates 43 years on Saturday. Peggy Pico shows us how the park has changed and its impact on the community.
There's a lot of buzz around this year's celebration as Chicano Park earned historic designation and the restoration of its colorful murals are now complete. Here with a look at the significance of the park and this weekend's festivities are muralist Mario Torrero and Jesse Constancio with the steering committee for the park. Thank you both for being here. Jesse, tell us a little bit about how this park came about.
Well, in a short, really quickly here, in 1970, for many years, the community had been promised a park. We're told to wait and wait and wait. And one day, they saw the bulldozers, assumed that that park had finally arrived, only to find out that there was going to be a highway patrol station. The community immediately mobilized. The grandmothers, aunts, uncles, students, like activists around the community came together and began building our own park, planting the nopales and the trees, and from there it's flourished into what you see today.
And that was about 1970.
April 22nd, 1970.
And let's take a look. I think most people know Chicano Park for these amazing murals, just vivid murals there. Let's take a look at some of this spectacular work. Now, Mario, you were one of the original muralists, and you also helped restore these murals. Yes. They were completed in August. How long did this process take?
Well, it took perhaps almost 20 years when we found out that we were going to receive almost $2 million. And we almost gave up on that, thinking year after year, it wasn't happening. So finally, last year, it took place and we got going, and it's been a celebration that hasn't stopped yet.
So once you got the money, then the actual repainting, how did it feel to repaint it again after so many years later of seeing the 40 years that had gone by?
As an artist, well, I knew what to expect, but it was putting together the artists that we hadn't seen each other perhaps for 30 years, bringing all those artists, the ones that we could reach, because we could reach everyone. Some were sick, some had died perhaps, but this reunion, it re-energized that what we had going in 1970. That spirit is flourished again and is still very much alive right now.
This park, the spirit of this park is certainly alive in the neighborhood. It's on the National Register of Historic Places now. Jesse, what do you think it means for the people living in this neighborhood?
I think that the people in the neighborhood can be assured that Chicano Park will always be there. It's getting its due respect, but more important to us, as we pass, we want to make sure that future generations know about this and that Chicano Park never goes away, and that's assuring us that that will never happen.
And it's not just about the park. Now, Barrio Logan's art district seems to be blossoming right now after a 20-year effort. We've got the new Mercado del Barrio. It recently opened. And like Hillcrest and North Park, there's a big sign coming that's going to identify the neighborhood.
Yes.
What do you think is behind this, Mario? Is it the art? What's sort of making this the it place?
The Chicano culture, a revolution, is based on a prophecy of Quetzalcoatl returning, in which we have this renaissance take place with indigenous people. And we have been going already for 43 years, but now the whole world is listening to it. Last year, 2012, the end of the world is the beginning of the world to us. And now everybody sees it, and that's why we're flourishing finally, because after promises, and we seeing that our body was disappearing under gentrification, that now we have this tremendous strength behind us. And around Chicano Park, now that's our arts district. Galleries are opening up and groups are coming. The new generations are really taking up that torch that we started, and we're passing it on. and we are really working together.
And generations and people from all different backgrounds, not just Chicanos, people interested in this heritage and this culture here. We don't have a whole lot of time, but Jesse, I wanted to ask you, what can we expect as far as these celebrations? This is a big one this year. You've got some films. What's happening this weekend?
Okay, what you can expect is exactly what you said, a celebration, festive day. You should expect, like if you were coming to your grandmother's house for her birthday, it would be plenty of good food, a lot of good music, some very interesting family there, everybody having a good time, and we encourage everybody to come out, especially those who have never been out before.
And there's a film at night, is right? There's a film Friday night?
Yes, that's Chicano Park Day. We have a Chicano Park night celebration because when we have some of that money that for renovation, we invested in creating a film about the renovation, about this artist that we hadn't seen in many years, and now this movie is about that. It's going to happen at Bread and Salt space on 1955 on Julian Street, right next to Chicano Park.
And folks can find out more about the weekend celebration and the park on our website at kpbs.org. Jesse and Mario, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you for inviting us.
San Diegans Alan and Carolyn Fisher have been called the Ozzie and Harriet of arm wrestling. That's right, arm wrestling. Alan has won 26 arm wrestling championships, Carolyn 5. And they've been married for 28 years. KPBS culture reporter Angela Carone visited their home, learned about their sport, and picked up some pointers.
When this guy gets up on the table, the ground shakes. I have to hold the table because he'll rip it off the stage. And that's no joke. Give it up for Mr. Alan Fisher!
Alan Fisher is a legend in the sport of arm wrestling. At 60 years old, he's won 26 world titles. Some people call him Popeye. To others, he's Mr. Intensity.
And I'm here in Morro Bay, California, taking on Mr. Intensity, Alan Fisher.
Fisher met his wife, Carolyn, on the arm wrestling circuit 29 years ago. She's also a world champion. She has 5 titles. The Fishers live in La Mesa with their 2 grown children. Their backyard is a training ground. It's also where they keep their trophies.
How many trophies do you think you've won?
Oh my goodness. Maybe 1,000. Carol and I think we gave away about 400 trophies at the thrift store one time between us.
Alan says a big trophy case to show off all his awards isn't really his style.
I really believe that I was designed by God to do what I do. And for me to take credit for that, it's like I'm just another person.
But he's got to get back past that huge hand of Alan Fisher.
Come on around, Paul.
Do you see my hand?
Fisher has a size 15 ring finger.
If somebody grabs my hand, they don't want to challenge me.
Fisher says he's been training for arm wrestling since he was a kid, though he didn't realize it. Growing up, he couldn't afford to buy the balls used in handball, his favorite sport, so he converted tennis balls.
Well, I actually used to climb on top of the roof of the gym where they hit all the tennis balls. The first time I went up there, I couldn't believe it. There was over 100 tennis balls. So I grabbed them all, and I used to sit in class. I used to tear the skins off of tennis balls.
As he peeled all those tennis balls, he developed muscles in his hands and forearms. He says those muscles set him apart.
I'm sure you've heard the stories where this little 130-pounder goes in and he beats some 300-pounder. Well, what is that? That's really, that connective strength that really dominates our sport. What makes a good arm wrestler is not the size of the muscle, but all the connection, your finger strength, your wrist strength, and how that's all connected.
Carolyn was the best arm wrestler at her Bible school, beating all the boys. She entered a tournament in Canada at 17. She wanted the prize.
They were offering, first place was a pair of cowboy boots. And I really wanted those, so I said, okay, I'll enter it. So I went in and I won that.
The Fishers teach a lot of people how to arm wrestle correctly so they don't get hurt. They've seen too many broken arms over the years.
When you approach the table, you want to approach the table with intent. And you want to be nice and parallel, your shoulders parallel with the table. You don't want to be this way, and you don't want to be all tweaky this way. So you grab the peg. If you let go of the peg, you're going to get a foul during your competition. So you want to hang on to the peg, okay? You put your elbow in the cup, and you can see right away that's not fair, right there. That's why he dominates the sport.
They say they can teach anyone to arm wrestle, even me.
I see how your shoulder raises up?
Yeah.
Because these muscles aren't strong enough to hold me.
Look at my massive forearm. What do
Yeah,
you mean
yeah.
it's not strong? The Fishers are the stars of a new reality show about arm wrestlers. The production team behind the hit show The Deadliest Catch will produce it for AMC. Shooting starts this spring.
Deadliest Catch.
The Fishers and their children aren't worried about having cameras following them. The couple says 28 years of marriage has taught them a lot.
I mean, that's not to say we haven't had our challenges, world champions under one roof, you know, and then one of them has PMS, and it isn't me.
The Fishers insist everyone has an arm wrestling story. It's just hard to imagine that anyone's story is better than theirs. Angela Carone, KPBS News.
You can actually meet the Fishers and other arm wrestlers at an event in South Park this coming Tuesday. We have more information on our website, kpbs.org. A red flag warning is going into effect tomorrow morning for much of San Diego County as temperatures begin to warm up. Along the coast, Friday looks like the warmest day, near 80, slightly cooler Saturday. Sunny mid-70s and low 80s for the inland valleys. Mountains will be in the 70s with chilly overnight temperatures, and the desert will warm into the low 90s by Saturday. You can find tonight's stories, download the KPBS app, all on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.